Do you have
Or,
children?
you know what? So my beloved, my fiance, so I'm 61. She's
Uh-huh.
younger. Her name is Summer. She is 41. Um, I never had children of my own, and now I have three beautiful bonus children. So, and
By
they're
way of
fantastic.
summer.
Yes. So, Ethan is 19, Bella's 16, and Gracie is 12, 13, not 12. Excuse me.
Wow. Okay, so when did you guys get married?
We haven't had not married yet. So
Okay, not married yet.
engaged.
How long you been together?
6 years.
Oh, good. So you're taking your time. You're
Exactly.
trying to feel it out a little bit.
And here's just a wonderful aspect of the story.
Yeah,
My beloved asked me to marry her
that's
in an
unusual.
unusual and an incredibly creative, surprised the heck out of me. She actually had this huge book made, and it was a with caricatures of basically our story. And then Matthew, do you prefer Matthew or Matt?
Whatever you're comfortable with, I'm gonna go
I
with.
love Matthew. So and at the last 2 pages of the book, and it's a longer story, but I won't bore you with it. The previous page to the last page, second to last page, it said, I have to ask you a question. And the book is big. And I'm sitting next to her completely blown away. She turns the page, and across the 2 pages it says, will you marry me?
Oh my gosh.
Matthew, and then comes out with a ring. So just like unbelievable. And it,
Wow.
yes, it's just like incredible. So,
How
and,
long after
and
you guys? Yeah, and
well, and my beloved just literally in May graduated with her degree in psychology, and she is now a credentialed school psychologist.
wow.
So
Of
mental
what
health runs
age?
in the family.
Yeah, right. It sure does. What age kids is she schooling or
So she's going to
psychoanalyzing?
work. Yeah, she's gonna the she went on 4 interviews, got 2 job offers. That's how much of a badass she is. She's gonna do K. This school is a charter school, K through 8, and she's gonna do K through I think third. I think that's, and then the other school psychologist is going to do 4 through 8.
So when summer school, did she specialize in the young ones and that psychology for the young ones?
They did the whole spectrum. So it
So
just it just so happens that, and I think she's going to be really good. I mean,
yeah,
really good at it. Yeah.
has she shown being really good at communication and those kind of techniques with her own children and of
Yeah.
course with you?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
really, yeah, really good. And and it's interesting, Matthew, there's been some some instances in our relationship, and a couple of late, that have been in which she was able to articulate something that was very challenging, i.e., confronting for me, but in a way where the importance of the message was retained, but it wasn't like it didn't blow me away. And that takes a lot of skill to be able to do that. That's
Right, along the lines of being able to communicate something with I feel instead of you
mm,
always,
yes,
like that
well
kind of
said.
stuff.
Yes.
It's difficult. It's difficult to communicate with a loved one or someone you really, really care about in a way that doesn't set them off or trigger them in some way. Some people are going to be triggered no matter what.
Yeah. No, you're exactly
Yeah.
right. And in fact, it's interesting, the because Summer was able to do this first observation slash request slash please change, because she was able to do that in such a way, something less big, not as big, was articulated, and I was able to make an adjustment almost immediately. And I remember saying, and I said to her, I said, honey, it's because of how you communicated the first one, made this second one was just like, oh, wow, wow, you're right. I mean, so. And she was. She's 100% right. But I think, per what you, Matthew, what you were saying, had it been communicated in another way, there's no way that I would have aligned with her request, nor, and even more for my own benefit, seeing what the truth of what she was saying.
So in this change request, I'm just curious about the timing of it. Was it before or after the proposal?
Oh no, this was like recent. We're talking like
It was-
within the last 60 days.
Okay.
This is like really, and part of it is, and I'll just jump into it. Um, so I have fought depression and suicidal ideation for, I'm 61 years old and I've fought it for 50 years. Genesis was inherited the genetics of my beloved father who passed away when he was only 41. He died of lung cancer, but certainly from what my three older brothers, I'm the baby of the four, had shared with me, is our poor father, James Hamilton Bartley, everybody called him Ham, was just devastated, crippled by depression. So I
Hmm.
inherited the genes, and then to just jump right into it, had the horror of being sodomized and raped on multiple occasions by a Boy Scout leader at 12 years old. And that was the genesis of
Yeah,
this fight.
right. Did that gene carry through to your sibs?
No, you know what? That's a great question. And no, I don't think it did. And
Hmm.
and 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 the only thing I would say, and I've actually asked myself and in all the therapy that I've done with amazing therapists, I don't think that I would have suffered to the extent that I've had I not been sexually assaulted.
Hmm.
And I base that on my three beloved brothers, that they've had no history of depression or, of course, or not of course, but or suicidal tendencies in any way, shape, or form.
When this was all happening way back when you were a kid,
Yes.
did you share this with the family or did you have someone you could go to? Were you able to share it at that time?
No. No. And part of it was complicated by two things. One, I think part of it is just my nature. The other, that I just tend to be compliant. And I was raised in the 70s. And every time the monster did these things to me, Matthew, he specifically said before he would release me that these were initiations and all the boys go through it, but we never talk about it.
Mm-hmm. So, uh, somewhat, don't tell our secret, don't share our
Yeah,
secret. This is our secret. Right, right,
exactly.
right. So, eventually, when you realize what you were feeling and that there was anger and shame, how long between that realization and the time where you started to spin out? Or was it all kind of simultaneous?
It was the latter, all simultaneous.
Uh-huh.
And it's probably important to note, it became in, I think, which is I guess it's common, a repressed memory.
Hmm.
And it's interesting, Matthew, I can tell you, I don't remember the day of the week, but I could tell you exactly where I was when the memory first encountered. I was a resident assistant going to in a dorm, St. Mary's College of Maryland, and and I remember, because I've never been a scary movie type guy,
Hmm.
and what was done to me was particularly heinous and sadistic and terrible. I
Right.
remember having the question in my mind was like, where did this come from? Like, why would I even think this? And then over whatever period of time of rumination, there was the realization like, oh, dear God, this did happen. So I was in my 20s. And so I think to kind of circle back to the question about spinning out, it's, I think it, the spin out for me, and there's still the remnant, is intense self-hatred.
Hmm. So I have to ask this because you ended up being with, going to be spending the rest of your life with Summer, who's a psychologist.
Right.
Is there any kind of a quirk that happened, or do
God,
you think that that's karma, or?
or maybe it's, a benefit. Um, that's I, you know what, for me, I want to say it's divinity is what it
Mm.
is.
Hmm.
Um,
You've used the word beloved several
mm,
times already in just this very brief period of time, related to Summer, related to your father and all that. Where does that word stem from for you, and why do you use that instead of another word? Why is beloved so well liked?
Now I'll get emotional on you, so
Okay, that's all right. That's good.
mama crier. um, I I have great people in my life.
Hmm.
I, I really do, and I feel blessed. I'm even my former wife was married to an amazing woman. She's still one of my greatest supporters.
Hmm.
And I will, sorry, I will refer to her as my former beloved. Um, I just, my reference to these people, I, I don't want it to come across as ordinary because they're not.
Hmm. Hmm. So that's
I
a
mean,
superlative for you.
yeah, and I'll tell you a little something about so my three brothers have always played a huge role in my life. And they're 6, 9, 11 years older than I. And my middle two are local. And my eldest, really since, really since our father died, stepped into the role as my dad.
Mm. And when did
He's,
Dad die?
I was 7, so that was 54 years ago,
Hmm.
1970 or thereabouts, right around
Right,
there.
right. Hmm.
And especially and even more so, I mean, he 42 years in our army, enlisted at the very lowest level, and ultimately pinned on 2 stars as a 2-star general. But you would never know that because he has no ego.
Hmm.
And so I've lived with him at different times, and he's always played a role. But I'm jumping around here. So 13 years ago, I tried to kill myself, and then began this journey, as I like to say, from mental hellness to mental wellness. And so medication and therapy, and very compliant. And then end of last year, Matthew, I dove into a place of depression, I, the worst I've ever had in my life. And I remember it made no sense because I was doing, in my speeches that I go around the world and give, and I talk about self-care and body, mind, and spirit. And like, I'm a practitioner. I don't miss. I'm not the guy that takes meds and he's feeling better and stops taking meds. Like, no, I keep taking meds. So here I've dove down into this place, and I am actively suicidal. I'm in the worst place, and be like, okay, well, what am I going to do? And at the advice of an incredible friend who just happens to be a psychiatrist, Dr. Martin Rubin, he had me consider and then accept ECT. So electroconvulsive therapy, shock
Mm-hmm.
therapy. And 31 sessions later, the next number 32 coming on this Friday,
Uh-huh.
changed my life.
This is interesting to me because this is just life's reminder that it's not over yet.
No.
So this stuff stays with you for a long, long time. And here you are, having hopefully turned the corner and become a mental health advocate is really, really important because you've lived through it. And so you're helping others now. And I could see that you're on your grand worldwide healing tour.
Yeah, yeah, and now added to my talks are this experience with ECT, because there's so much, stigma and resistance and fear, and understandably so, because you're like, well, wait, you're going to have me go in and you're going to put electrodes around my head and you're going to put enough juice in me to have a seizure, and that's going to be beneficial, and like, yeah, it is.
Is this controversial or is this well known? Because I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, it is, Matthew. It is really controversial. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have the vast majority. If you type in shock therapy
Yeah.
or ECT, most of it will be people who are like, "Oh no, you wouldn't do this." And yet, what's interesting is if you look at it from a empirical standpoint, in terms of what the level of efficacy is, it's incredibly high.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is, I mean, again, I've had 31 sessions.
So you're talking about almost once per week then.
Well, how it started was in the what they called the acute phase.
Yeah.
It was 3 times a week.
Okay.
It was, and then we went to 2 times a week, and then we went to once a week, and now we're at basically once a month. And we're going to continue this till the end of the year, and then we'll look to see, do we need maybe a couple maintenance a time? And it's hard to describe the difference between what I was feeling, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
very attuned to how I feel, and what it's like now. And it is, and to the people who are listening, and you don't feel anything. I go in, I get electrodes around my head, I go under general anesthesia. It's like I'm taking a nap. I wake up, recover, and I go home.
During
And
this nap period of time during the ECT treatment, is it really that they are stimulating a seizure? Is that what
yeah,
is happening behind
no,
the scenes?
absolutely. And my seizures last, and asked my wonderful doctor, Dr. Lauren Marassa, 30 30 to 45 seconds.
And are they measuring brainwave movement or are they doing MRI on your brain during this
All
time?
that, all that
All that.
stuff.
And so
And it,
what's their metric for figuring out what's going on behind the scenes?
and I don't know the specifics of
Uh-huh.
that, but it is very technologically based and incredibly the level of efficacy in terms of what is the number of people who respond positively with a reduction in symptoms. In other words, so depression is not killing me, is incredible. And I'll give you an example. So about a month ago, I was having a terrible day, awful, just like, life wasn't working. Now, in past, that would mean I am going down depression alley and I'm going to be thinking about suicide. Like, because
Hmm.
that's the way it's been for 50 years. But what I noticed was Matthew was like, I'm not feeling depressed. But I'm not feeling happy. What is this? And you know what it was? Disappointment. And I'm like, that's what ECT did.
I want to drill down a little bit on this, David, because we've all known people who have been suffering from
Mm.
these kinds of issues for a long time. But when you have suicidal ideation, is it that you're feeling, I don't want to be here? Or is it, I'm going to take out the 45 and blow my head off? Is it, I'm going to step in front of a train? Do you have actual thoughts about how you're going to do it? Or is it just, I don't want to be here?
It would be really both of those.
Hmm.
There's a very specific order. The order is I don't want to be, well, actually, the order is I want my pain to end. So, because it's an important distinction. It's not so much about wanting to die as it is wanting the pain to end.
Hmm.
And so then for me, the method has always been the same thing. I live about about a half an hour from what's known as the Forest Hill Bridge. And the Forest Hill Bridge is about 2 hours west of its more famous cousin, the Golden Gate Bridge.
Hmm.
But the Forest Hill Bridge at 730 feet is 500 feet further off the ground than its more famous cousin. And so 13 years ago, I was bent over, about to fall 7.5 seconds into the American River. So for me, it had been before ECT, it had been the same thing. It's always like, nope, I'm going to the bridge. I'm going to the
Mm-hmm.
bridge. Like that's it. But I'm amazed that those thoughts are not there.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you attribute this then, all of this healing, to the ECT treatments that you've been having the past year.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And without it, and I'm not trying to be funny. It's shocking to me.
Mm-hmm.
It,
Mm-hmm.
it
I
just,
get it.
I can't believe. I mean, the disappointment versus depression thing, Matthew, is like, it's, it's good.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I can manage disappointment. Disappointment is finite. Disappointment doesn't want to kill me.
Mm-hmm. So some people turn to the bottle, some turn to the drugs and all of that. Is that part of what has been in your behavior over the past when you've been feeling those feelings?
No,
No.
none of that.
Is that a blessing or a curse that you were unable to give yourself any sort of an
Mm,
out without having to like do the big one?
wow. A great question. I never thought about that way. Because it's hard for me, it's self-hatred. Um,
But yeah, but you understand who you are now. You like yourself. You love yourself, and you appreciate yourself, right?
yeah, I mean, now it's taken 61 years.
Right. Right. So maybe the next 61 will be, glorious.
Well, I I think there's a good possibility of it with the people I have surrounding me.
Do you have a good social circle?
Oh, I do.
Do you have good
Really,
buddies?
I do.
Yeah. You get to go out and spend time with people in a face-to-face kind of physical world?
Yeah, I prefer that.
Uh-huh.
And just to give you an idea of how blessed I am. So my dad, my brother, every day, every day I will wake up. He's on a he's ahead of me time wise. And so there'll be a text from
Mm-hmm.
him, and he'll give me he'll give me an idea of kind of how his day has started and what he's going to focus on, and then he gives me guidance, kind of things that we've been working on together. He'll say, okay, I'd like you to focus on this and focus on this, and then Matthew, there's always a thought for the day, which is a motivational thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of every day, we talk on the phone.
And this is your oldest brother who you talking about? And where's he located?
Illinois,
So he's very
Midwest.
sage and wise, apparently.
Oh, he's a yeah. He's always been that way. And I think I think he knew way back when I was spending time with him that he was going to need to be that role for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I attempted to kill myself, and then in this most recent experience when I dove back down into this horrific depression, it was my brother and my beloved who together, especially in those first couple of months, I mean, they they were communicating every day to like, okay, what do we need to do to support David?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, and my brother, being my brother, when my beloved graduated from grad school, who sent flowers to Summer? My brother.
Right. Right, right, right. Very interesting. Do you think if you and I were to meet somewhere just off the cuff and not in an interview setting, and let's say we met at the local pub and we had a conversation, would we be able to have a conversation without your past trauma coming up, would I be able to just say, uh, so David, what have you eaten today? Would you be able to respond to that and not get into your past?
Absolutely.
So then
What
tell
have,
me, what have you eaten today?
so that's so funny. So I am not a big veggie guy, but I need to have veggies. So I have a big shake in the morning.
Hmm.
So it's a foundation of water and fruit and ice, and then a huge amount, I mean, like an inordinate amount of spinach,
Hmm.
and then protein powder, flaxseed, and some other stuff. And then have that. And I'm not a candy guy, but I love baked goods. So I go to Costco and get the big lemon poppy seed muffins
Okay, right, right.
and enjoy that. Like it is just so, and then I won't eat again until dinner.
So is that what you had today? You had this like
Big shake.
giant
Yep.
spinach shake and a
Shake.
lemon poppy seed muffin?
Oh God, it was so good. It was just,
That's Look at you. Your whole demeanor has just
oh
shifted.
man, it is so good. I just love it.
Do you cook at all at home?
I'm not a fan of cooking, although I know how to.
Hmm.
And what's interesting, that the addition of children in my life has made cooking more of an opportunity to serve them in the way that I look at my brother having served me for all those years. And just like, it's an opportunity. And to try also, I think on my best days is to try to be an example, you know, just like this is one way of being. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it's one way.
I want to stay on that for a second. You talked about serving others. There's no greater thing in life than to be able to serve others that you love.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then if you're not doing the cooking, I'm guessing that Summer's doing the cooking, or you guys have you take out all the time? Tell me.
No, no, no. Summer or I will do, or my daughter Bella is
Uh-huh.
she's actually a really good cook. Um, and it was interesting just in the service mode for many, many, many years. I had a chance to serve in a different way, and I think it's important because it's relevant in that it comes up in my talks when I go places. It's story after story after story after story, and most of the stories are animal stories.
Hmm.
And they're animal stories that came when I was married to this amazing woman named Deanna, my former beloved, and we ran an animal sanctuary. And the sanctuary was primarily end of life. So all the animals that we took, Matthew, nobody wanted. And so we did no adoptions. And so animals stayed
Hmm.
until they made their transition. And we had as many as 100 at any one time. And because of Deanna's mama bear heart, the level of care based on the level of service to those animals beings was, well, I think at one point we were literally the finest sanctuary in the world. I don't think there was another place that was better than us. It was amazing.
Why did you and Deanna break up?
It's a great question. And it was my choice. And after the suicide attempt, I think the suicide attempt and being saved, of course, was a blessing, but all of the pent up trauma, shame, everything else, I just I didn't have it in me to be in relationship with another person.
Hmm.
And I
And so
still,
what was that transition like? How long did that take?
that's a while, shoot, years, 6 years. Is that right? 5 years? It was a while.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, and Dee and I have we are in a great space. I tell her I love her all the time, and she says the same to me, and I acknowledge her every chance I get. Summer is fine with me telling my former wife I love you,
Hmm.
because she knows. Um, yeah.
So
Again,
you
just
re
another example of an amazing the people that I'm surrounded with.
right. Do you think in any way that Summer feels that uh, those past emotions, past trauma, and things that you live with to this very day could in some way jeopardize your current relationship?
Yeah, I do, and this goes back kind of to what you and I were talking about at the beginning, and I love that we started to talk just right away. And thank you for the beautiful space that you create. It, I think it is that concern that has her so eager to communicate a potential problem like right away. And and again, it has been Summer's ability to communicate what is a confronting observation in such a way to allow me the space to consider it and then act to make the change. And I made, and I've made some big changes.
Hmm.
And it
Based on her suggestions.
Yeah. And one, just the lesser of the two, was I was like I was driving too fast, and I was tailgating people, and I wasn't giving enough space when I came up to like a four-way stop. I was going into the intersection and things like all these times I'm like, oh, come on, that's stupid. No. But you communicated it in a way, Matthew, and I was like, and I realized I'm like, oh wow, you know what? You're right. I said, you're right about that. And then be able to make the change. And so, I mean, it could be, quite frankly, I mean, she could have saved my life, because who knows? Maybe if I had continued to drive in that way, that I would have gotten in an accident. So maybe by being more cautious, I've lessened the possibility.
You have. We've spoken about this a lot on the show and in our lives about the anger that seems to emanate from people when they get behind the wheel is not
Mm,
unlike the anger that people display when they get behind a computer screen. When they're feeling safe and they're behind their keyboard, they do and say all kinds of awful things. And when they get behind their steering wheel, they are just like that anger, that push, that drive, no pun intended, to just do anything and everything they want at their speed and not paying attention to others.
no, I agree with you 1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I cannot acknowledge my beloved enough for it was her way of communicating that.
Hmm.
And I
How do
think
you,
to,
yeah, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, and to your brilliant question about, does Summer have a concern that my history in mass could potentially be a problem? Yeah. And the answer to the question is yes. So we're going to bring stuff up right away.
So does it feel in any way like eggshells are happening beneath your feet?
No, not anymore.
Hmm.
No. And
At
I'll,
some point.
yeah, certainly in the beginning. And
Yeah.
I'll confess, like when the driving observation came up, my initial thing was to say no, have some anger, how dare you, maybe use some expletives,
I've been driving for 40 years
and
without
20
your
years
help.
longer than you.
Right, right.
So, but really, almost to a certain degree, really the same sort of powerful revelation of ECT was with Summer's observation of like, oh my God, you're right. Like, wow, okay. So then, all right, choice, keep doing what I'm doing or make a change.
Hmm.
Like, okay, yeah, yeah. So, and you had said this all the way early on. All of this, even at 61, I still got to actively manage really every day.
Right, right. It never ends.
Yeah.
How do you communicate to Summer issues that you might have and try to do it in a way that's, non-offensive and perhaps stylish, that's going to help her get to the next step because everyone needs to learn, everyone needs to improve,
Yeah.
no matter what their degree might say.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, I'm pretty good. What I will start with is an acknowledgement of something that she is doing really well, and then come in with a request, or actually first, sorry, you say, this is my observation. Take ownership of this is me. This is my observation, and then if in fact I would like it, and then sometimes it could be just an observation with no request for change. So we had another situation, and it was around money. And it was interesting, in which I had an observation. So acknowledgement. So it was acknowledgement, observation, request. And the request was passionate. And right or wrong, I said, when you had made this request of me to make this change, in this part of my life, I did. I'm asking you for the same consideration here. And God love my beloved, she did. So the success in that situation, really, you could really actually go all the way back and give the credit to Summer, because the only reason I was able to make the request in the way to increase the likelihood Summer would do is because of who she was and how she acted.
It's just, this was the money related issue you
Yep.
speak of.
Yeah.
And so is that about financial security and the future type of money related issue?
Exactly. And just about
Okay,
this, day-to-day consciousness and, this and
right.
this, and, let's not, when we have one of something, we don't need to go buy another of the same thing. Just kind of
Hmm.
real, it's more tweaking, I guess the better word would be adjusting, as opposed to, okay, you got to make a change. Change tends to have so much like, oh my God, where
Right.
adjustment is kind of, that's like tuning up or down the volume on the radio.
Yeah, absolutely. So, David, when you're not speaking or writing, what hobbies do you enjoy?
That's You know what? I'm not very good at this area, and I need to be. So what I will do, so we have two dogs. So we have Percy, who is a ridiculously gorgeous, what they call English cream. So
Hmm.
imagine a golden retriever, except he's all white. And Matthew, he is so handsome. It is just, and he is such a sweetheart. He is just a baby. And we have my dog. We have a pug named Lexi.
Okay, that
Lexi is daddy's girl.
Lexi is not on the photograph or the drawing behind you on the
No,
wall,
no, no.
is she?
No,
Okay.
but what's interesting, I will make one only because the person, there's a reason. So there's a flag
Yep.
right in the middle. The flag was made by a dear friend of mine, Larry Bucher, when he was a fifth and sixth grade teacher, and his class made this flag that talked about, it referenced his class, it referenced Mount Kilimanjaro, it referenced a wonderful man named Paul, and the sanctuary. And that flag was taken by Paul to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro as a fundraiser for the. And I mention this because Paul just literally within the last week made his transition. An amazing, incredible man. So, and then those are the other photos are paintings of Boston Terriers.
Hmm.
So I'm a Boston Terrier freak. I've had probably 40 in my life. When I met Deanna back in 1996, she had a Boston Terrier named Wally, and I wasn't really that big into dogs at the time. I quickly fell in love with this beautiful woman and this incredible dog. And then when Wally died, we got two puppies, Hope and Harmony, and that set the whole stage too. So At any one time at the sanctuary, there was as many as 23 dogs, all of whom lived in the house. And probably 18 of them were Boston Terriers at any one time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot to unpack there, but I did want to get back to the original question, which is when you're not speaking or writing, what hobbies do you enjoy?
And I just, you know what, brother, I really don't
You don't
have
have
any.
any. Okay.
No. And
Okay.
then,
That's fine. You don't even have to expound on that. Now, what
okay.
about this transition thing you talk about with Paul? What does that mean? Characterize that.
So he died.
Okay.
So
Didn't know what
that,
you were talking about,
yeah.
whether it
So
was
he,
the
and
whole
he,
gender stuff or, okay, he
no, he
died.
just passed away, and he was just such a beautiful man. And they just,
Hmm.
and Mount Kilimanjaro is over 20,000 feet. And
Right.
Paul took that flag to the top. So
Did
it
he
is,
climb?
he climbed the mountain. He
Wow, I
climbed that
can't
mountain.
imagine there are a lot of people who've done that.
No, and he did it for us. Did
Uh-huh.
it for the sanctuary. So
Does having two dogs mean that you are dog people or that you just have dogs and that you prefer dogs? Or do cats play a role in your life in any way?
that's such an incredible question. Cats recently, no, I would say we're dog people. My daughter, though, wanted and is now a cat person. So Luna, 2 months ago, came into our life. And
Luna.
she is a stunningly beautiful cat. And we are now just at the point, like Luna came downstairs the other day. She spends most of her time in Bella's room. Came down the other day, and Lexi and Percy really kind of paid her no attention. Like,
Hmm.
oh my goodness, we're evolving. So the hope is that can be all the time. But
Oh, it will be. It
yeah,
will become.
okay.
So interesting that
I'm
Bella
taking your
named her cat Luna.
Luna.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay,
And she
so
is gorgeous.
yeah, I think dogs and cats both reign supreme. I like them more than I like humans.
I mean, I tell you, you would have loved the sanctuary. It
Hmm.
was it was magical. People think, well, how could you have 23 dogs in the house and it not be crazy? I'm like, it just wasn't.
Right.
Just
I wanted to ask you a little bit about any travel adventures you might have taken. Have you stored away in your mind one of the most memorable places you've ever visited?
yeah. So when I was my entire 17th year of living, I was an international exchange student. So I lived in Australia.
Oh.
So went there for all of 1980 and lived about 100 miles to the east of the big city of Melbourne.
Hmm.
And if you look at it, Australia, kind of in the southern southeast portion of the country, and lived with this wonderful family. And the timing of your question is incredible because my little host brother, John, Johnny, he literally just emailed me like 2 days ago, and we hadn't talked in a while. So I had it was John, Jennifer, Geraldine, and who am I missing? Is that it? And then mom and dad. And we lived on about 300 acres in this beautiful home. And my host father was a genius, literally. And he taught technical school, um, and was also a hobby farmer. And it was an amazing experience. And I got the chance to travel as an exchange student while I was there. I got a chance to travel in a good part of the country, and it was amazing. To be
Ah.
17 years old and do that was really, and I fell in love with photography
Hmm.
at that time, and then continued that. And to go circle all the way back in terms of hobbies now, my beloved did make me buy a new camera. And I have promised her that in the second half of this year, I will break it out and rediscover my love for photography. Because I mean, at one point, I learned how to develop black and white pictures on my own. So I was really into it.
Oh yeah, back in the old days, that's what
Yeah,
we did, right? Get into that
exactly.
dark room. Hey, so
Exactly.
we're in the second part of this year now, my friend.
Yes, I know. I see that. So, brother, and I'm going to give you credit for the, like, the camera's in the box. I mean, it's here, it's ready to go. So it's paid for. So I will do it. I promise you as well.
I'll ask a question that most people probably wouldn't be thinking of right now, but is it an old style real film camera or is it a digital camera?
I I don't, I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? I don't know. I want to say it could like be either. Do they still sell film?
I think that there are photographers who still do do film. Yeah.
I want to say it must. No, you know what? I'm gonna find out and I'm gonna let you know because
I never thought that that would be the question that would stump anybody.
I know. It's
That's
like,
that's very cool. So
bless
I
you.
was my next area was going to be to ask you what your dream superpower would be if you could define it. Obviously, it's not knowing whether your camera is film or digital, but what would you define as your dream superpower? If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
You know, really, it would be to be super patient.
Hmm.
I would like to be really patient because I
So,
know. So I notice, like, because every morning I'm a routine guy, and early on, Percy, Lexi, and I go out for our walk, and I notice sometimes I'm impatient with Lexi because she likes to mark in a lot of places, even though she's
and
female.
so do I.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I would be impatient with you, my brother. So
Right, right.
no, I would like to be really patient. That would be
So do
really
you,
cool.
okay. Do you drink a lot of coffee?
None.
Why?
I just, it's funny. So I grew up in a household in which coffee was not a big deal. It wasn't like my mom. I know my mom didn't. It's so interesting. My mom remarried ultimately, and I grew up actually. My beloved stepfather had 9 children, so I grew up as number 12 or 13. And I know, right? Lot of people.
Does that even still happen? Wow.
No. I mean, you just would have to look at just the economic. We went through, what was it? A side of beef. I want to say it was every quarter. I mean, and now me, as the male head of household for a family of 5, I look at the amount of food that we eat, and especially in the summer when everybody's home, I'm
Hmm.
thinking, because so we had as many as 11 people living at home. Because like my brother, my dad, he was already in the army. One of my wonderful bonus sisters was out of the house, and so we still had 11 people. Man, the amount of food we must have eaten, like, oh my, like that had to be ridiculous.
I can definitely see where some of the impatience might have stemmed from living in that kind of condition. Would
It's
definitely
just,
do that to me.
oh my gosh. Well, and so my parents were genius, really.
And
My
having kids.
Yeah, 9 and 4. My bonus dad was a meteorologist, and I grew up outside of Washington D.C. Everybody worked for the government. So my mom, when my parents got married, went to nursing school. So dad's working, mom's at school. So they divided the kids up into teams, and so there was a team. There was a team every night that cooked for the rest of the family. So by the
Hmm.
time I was like 13 years old, I could cook, do my laundry, and clean. So that was very beneficial. But the whole love of cooking might have got sucked out.
Okay. I can't understand that because for me, that's where Zen begins.
You're okay, right? No,
Right.
I get it.
But,
I get it.
everybody's different, so that's totally cool. What do you and Summer do for fun?
You know what? And we hadn't done this in a while. And you know what we did last night
Hmm.
in the evening? So the girls have their dad and bonus mom are phenomenal people, and they're with them on the weekend. And my son tends to hibernate a bit in his room. So we last night we were just on the couch and we were like glued next to each other. And Summer said, I really like sitting close to you. And I'm like, it really is cool. And then we watched the movie, and it was good. It was Mark Wahlberg and John Malkovich and Kurt Russell in the oil rig that blew up. Oh shoot, can't think of it. It's a great
It,
movie.
it, it's not current though, is it, that movie?
No, I think the movie's been out for a while.
It's been out a while.
What the heck is the name of the movie? Shoot, it was really good.
Are there any shows that you guys have been binging on lately in the last couple of years that you really enjoyed?
Not lately, only because my beloved had just, like grad school
Hmm.
is like, and had been super, super busy speaking. So we really didn't get into, now she and the girls watched some stuff, Japanese stuff on Avatar and stuff like that. That's not my gig.
Hmm.
So I'm like, I can't really kind of get into that. So I hang with the dogs.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to share a quirky or surprising fact about yourself.
Well, we don't want to get too deep.
Oh, you can. I didn't say kinky. I just said quirky or surprising.
Well, so I I hate my body. So
Oh, you
sorry.
look like a perfectly beautiful, natural person.
Thank you. You're
Normal.
very kind. Yeah. I
What's wrong with it, in your opinion? What's quirky or surprising about your body, or about the hate you have for your body?
said it's so intense. Like I literally will do anything to not be naked. And
Except with summer.
yeah, and or take a shower. Like that's it. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
it's yeah,
So
and
where
it
are you going
is.
to be naked? I mean, we gotta drill down on this one.
Well, it's okay. I
Where
guess
where
you
would
do.
you be appearing? Now here's David Bartley appearing naked. So where's that happening?
Oh my god. I know, but yeah, it's just like, well, you know what's interesting? It's we're gonna go deep just because that's what we do. Is so my son. I mean, it is so rare that he has a shirt on, and I am so envious of that. It is, because I so maybe that's the quirky part is, I mean, and he is so comfortable, and I acknowledge him all the time. I say, I'm so glad. I'm so proud of you. They just
Hmm.
like, oh, I'm so happy that you get to enjoy this.
Right, right. Something that
Um,
you have not.
no, never.
Yeah, right.
Like, um, well, let me think. Okay, that was kind of deep. Sorry. It was just like,
That's what
well,
we do around here.
you guys are deep. I mean, I'm certainly a neat Nick for sure. Like
Like
not
white glove kind of neat
no
Nick?
no 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 not no. And I've gotten
Like
so much
scrub the
better.
toilet neat Nick? Sweep the floor
Yeah.
neat? What kind of neat Nick are you? Like keeping
I
things
just
organized?
yes.
Okay.
I just like stuff like orderly. And so there's where to go back to the superpower and why the superpower is so important to me to be patient is I notice that I can be my sense of peace can be
Hmm.
disrupted if something is not put away. And just like, okay, you know what? Let's take it down a notch. Let's just relax. It's gonna be okay. Like it's gonna be okay. What else? Quirky. I mean, that I lived with 23 dogs. That was pretty quirky.
Oh yeah, I guess we covered this.
Yeah, just say. I mean, that was pretty quick. And I live with 25 horses. I live with 9 potbelly pigs. I lived with a 7-foot cow, and his best friend was a 3-foot miniature,
Mm.
Birdie and Manny.
A
Um,
3 foot minister?
no minute. There
That
are.
would be
I'm
an
sure.
interesting
I'm
image.
sure that there are. No, 3-foot miniature. So
Gotcha.
he was a mini. So man, he was.
Right.
I mean, and brother, yeah, Ferdy was literally at the back. So at the back, he was about 6 foot something, and he raised his head to over 7 feet. I mean, he was just like ridiculously large. And then you had Manny, who was 3 feet tall and weighed 1,000 pounds, and they were best friends.
Very cool.
So
Very, very cool.
I picked you some. What last thing that I picked up like hundreds of gallons of manure every day.
That's kind of quirky.
I mean, because literally I didn't want my horses walking around in their own poop. So I literally picked up every single piece of manure that they had every single day.
Hmm. Did
So
you
that was
spread it
pretty.
out in the fields and did you work the fields
Now,
at all?
another
No?
example of an amazing human being. The long
Uh-huh.
story short, ultimately, every single piece of manure went to this incredible man, Fred Smallwood, and his beautiful wife, Ann, who had a property down the lane from where Dee and I were. And every day I'd fill up the back of this cart and take the tractor down. And Fred every day would have a piece of rebar with orange plastic tape on it, and he would have put it where in the field he would want me to dump all the manure, and I would
Hmm.
dump the manure and he would spread it out.
Gotcha.
He was a great guy.
Just popped into my mind. You said that Summer came with three of her own children. Did you have any children with Dee in your prior previous marriage?
Never did.
Okay, okay.
I
That
think
makes sense.
the
Otherwise, you would have mentioned it.
I think the 13 kids growing up. Yeah. Like I think like, oh, the world doesn't need any more children.
Are you feeling optimistic about just USA culture and society as at this point where we are?
I am. And I will add, because I think it's important, I'm not a news guy. I
Hmm.
don't, it's not that I'm trying to avoid things, is I'm focusing on my life was saved from killing myself.
Hmm.
And my job is to go out and to share my journey from mental healthness to mental wellness. The first part talking about the problem, the second part of the talk talking about what can we do, and then teach people three ways in which they can create the experience of deep connection, which then has the experience of hope for the person on the receiving end. And my belief is, and I'm not clinical, my belief is that when a person feels hopeful, they won't kill themselves.
So tell me, when you're doing your talks and your social engagements, speaking engagements, are those paid talks or are those pretty much free talks because you're like spreading the gospel of healing?
Yeah, no, they're paid. That's how
Oh,
I, because I'm
okay.
the that's how I support my family. So I do, and they're all my. It's just a very different approach. It's I did two TED Talks, and the only reason I mention it is because there's two amazing stories about the sanctuary in the
Hmm.
talks. And so it's just me taking a different angle on talking about quote unquote mental health. And more importantly, I think when people talk about suicide prevention, it's too daunting. It's just like, yeah. So what I want to do is I want to make prevention doable. And
Hmm.
and my work is supported by a quotation by an extraordinary psychiatrist, Dr. Drew Ramsey. And Dr. Ramsey says this: someone you see today is thinking about killing themselves. Your smile, your question, your love could save them. Trust me, they told me it did.
Very cool. David, what is your website and your workbook? Tell us a little bit about that, what it costs, and how people can get that or get a hold of you and try to make that journey from hellness to wellness. By the way, that's a great marketing line.
Thank you so much. I give credit to the universe on that one because that was just like, whoo, that's a good line.
Yeah, you bet.
So if you Google me, David Woods Bartley, different things will come up. DavidWoodsBartley.com is his website, which is going through an evolution. The work that I do now is I go into organizations of all kinds. I go into schools from K through college, first responders, the military, businesses of any type, faith organizations, and share. The base talk is called The Why of Suicide and the How of Hope. And it's about looking at the problem from a different perspective, but more importantly, giving access to, in alignment with Dr. Ramsey's quote, I teach three ways that people can create connection anytime, any place, anywhere, that little that you know could actually save somebody's life. So David Woods Bartley, David at davidwoodsbartley.com email. 916-247-6389. Call me. There's 2 TED Talks. They're so much fun. There's a great story about a horse. The first one is how connection saved my life. And the second one is how to save a life by sitting down. So I would love to, if the purpose of my life is to get the message out to as many people as I can. And if you like stories and if you like animal stories, I can promise you these presentations and workshops, and I have a variety, they're a lot of fun.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for spending your day with me today. I really appreciate it.
It's awesome. It's just, I knew it was going to be good. I didn't know it was going to be this good, but brother, and thank you for what you do. Thank you that you have made it your life to talk about something that is so important and to bring in all these different people. But thank you. That's just, please know it means the world to me. So thanks.
Well, you're very welcome. Really been a pleasure hanging out with you, like almost like a buddy hanging out at the bar. And
Absolutely.
okay, well, speaking of bar, what would be your drink of choice?
You know what? I love amaretto.
Ah, my mom used
Oh,
to love amaretto.
amaretto on the rocks with a beer as I guess a chaser.
A
Oh
beer
yeah.
chaser,
Oh yeah.
amaretto,
Oh
and a
yeah.
beer
No.
chaser.
In fact, I've not had amaretto in a while. Thank you, brother.
It's been too
That's
long
it's
for me
been way too
too.
long. I got to do it.
Hey, what's the perfect beverage for pizza?
I've gotten really into this is a little quirky. I've gotten into cranberry juice lately.
Wow, cranberry juice to wash down the pizza.
I know,
I've never heard that one. I've asked that question 1,000 times.
and you know what? Also, but see, and I got this from my beloved. You know what she does is cranberry juice and then soda water to give it a little bit of a little, not a kick, but a, I don't know, sparkle, whatever.
Kind of like
Fizz.
a little tickle,
Yeah, that I like. No, I
Cosmo
like that.
without the alcohol.
Absolutely. No, I like that. Yeah. No, I'd really gotten into it. So in fact, last night I was like, oh no, we're out of cranberry juice. And she said, oh no, I got another one in the pantry. I'm like, oh my God.
Score.
Exactly. Like freaking incredible.
Wow. Any parting shots you want to make, David, before we say aloha?
Nah, I say thank you. Just just please realize those who are listening, which are a lot of people. Let me just do Dr. Ramsey's quote one more time because I think it's so powerful. And we think, well, there's nothing I could do to save somebody's life. Listen, and just imagine this person sitting with Dr. Ramsey, and Dr. Ramsey says, "How have you been?" So here's the quote: "Someone you see today is thinking about killing themselves. Your smile, your question, your love could save them. Trust me, they told me it did."
Thank you, David. Really great
Thank,
meeting you.
thank you, brother.